We talk a lot about word count, page turns, and pacing in our storybooks, but do we ever stop and think about what a young child actually understands? What do they comprehend? What's going on in a developing child's mind as they read a story? Don't worry, I'm not a psychologist and I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of science facts, but today I am going to share with you some simple, practical tips that every writer and illustrator should know about children's development from ages 0 to 5. What's going on in their little minds and how do they comprehend your story? I'm really thankful this topic was brought to light through a comment on this channel on a video that I have about 5 signs that you're meant to write for kids. The subscriber commented, "It would be nice to introduce how children aged 0 to 5's brain works differently than an adult. The real technical challenge to create content for children, like how do they perceive time and space and personal emotions and how these differ from teenagers or adult brains. Understanding these technical limitations and applying it to writing, drawing is the true hard part." I'm so glad that you brought this topic up, and I'm going to share some simple practical ways we can understand children's brains 0 to 5. Even though I'm not a specialist, it's something that as a writer for children, I've wanted to understand for myself so that I could get better at my craft. The very first thing that I want to share with you about children ages 0 to 5 is that at that stage of development, they have very concrete thinking. It means kids under the age of 5 tend to think very literally. Abstract ideas like time, sarcasm, complex emotions. These could be a little confusing for kids. Not that they don't understand them and not that we couldn't infuse those into our picture books, but speaking in literal terms is the best for kids at that age, using clear, direct language and tangible imagery with imagination. So I want to give you a practical example of this. Let's use a rabbit, okay? If you were going to speak in abstract, let's call it very flourished vocabulary, speak very fluffy and say something, write something like, "The rabbit leapt across the meadow, dreaming of faraway lands and untold stories." Okay, we're trying to tell a story about a rabbit who was like kind of on a fairy tale quest. Well, that, what I said there is lovely. It's a lovely sentence, but it's a little pie in the sky for kids to understand. We want to make it more literal and concrete, and it could sound something more along the lines of, "Rabbit hopped through the grass. He was pretending the hills were castles." Now that is more concrete. It still has imagination and excitement to it, but we're not speaking in abstract, fluffy terms. The second thing that children's writers should keep in mind for children ages 0 to 5 is that they have very short attention spans. That's a given. I think we all know that. It's pretty hard to keep the attention of a little one. That was my entire goal when I created the book, A Busy Day in ABC Woods. This book is created for short attention spans. The sentences are very short and rhythmic. I take the children through the alphabet on a woods adventure with critters in the woods, and I keep everything real short and snappy. The parents or caregivers can turn the page just reading, and the words have a rhythm, which leads me to my third point. Repetition and rhythm is very helpful for children under the age of 5. It helps them to feel secure. It helps them to anticipate what's coming next. So my tip would be to use repeating phrases or patterns in your writing. And it doesn't mean that you have to be too repetitious and lean into it almost in a redundant sort of way, but to understand that building phrases or something that the child can recognize is coming is so helpful. And when you read all of like the literature and children's books that you've loved as a child and that have made an impact on your life, you could probably go through and study and see that there is repetition built into all the different phrases. This is something that I focused on my very first children's publication, Wait, Darling, Wait. Every few pages, there is a repetitious line, but I add a word to that line each time. So it says here, something good is going to happen. This is a book about patience and positivity as Chicken sits on her nest. The next time this phrase comes along, it says something good and fantastic is going to happen. Then the next time that this phrase comes along, it says something good, fantastic, and amazing is going to happen. And what I've built into this book is that the children can anticipate what's coming, but I also threw a twist and a surprise of an extra word. So you can use creativity in this without being too redundant. The next tip that I want to mention is visual understanding. So even though today's talk focuses on writing picture books for kids, we need to understand that the illustrations will tell the story, and the illustrations will tell what our words do not. In fact, we want them to. As writers, we want to already be thinking about the illustrations, even if you aren't going to be the illustrator of your story. We want to be thinking about visual understanding because children read pictures before words. They rely on the visuals of a story, which is the whole point of a picture book. So those pictures play a powerful role. And as a writer, you need to rely on the fact that the visuals will tell the children the story and that that's natural, that children read pictures before they read words. And the fifth thing that I want children's writers to know and understand about children ages 0 to 5 is that they have big emotions and small words. Okay, so think in terms of small, simple vocabulary, but really big topics and big emotions. And children do understand complex things. They think very deeply with small words because they don't always have the words for the bigness that they feel, but they do understand. And so a tip here is to use expressive characters that are relatable. And in my free YouTube class that you can check out the links below to find the playlist specifically for this class, I'm going to be covering how to create relatable characters in one of the lessons of the class. This is a really simple class to help build your skills as a writer. It's available for free here on YouTube. I also have an exercise booklet for writers to exercise everything that we learn in the class. This is an affordable, downloadable printable that you'll find on my site to help grow your skills because I really believe that we need to put our skills into practice in order to transform. Okay, so this is a topic that we cover there in the class about developing relatable characters because I do think that characters are a way that we can express big topics and big emotions with small words. We can make our characters come to life, expressing and living out all of these big, amazing things that kids need to understand. And then the sixth thing to understand about children ages 0 to 5 is that they understand time and sequence a little bit differently. Things like yesterday, tomorrow, later can get a little fuzzy. They don't really know when that is, or let's put it this way, they're figuring that out. And when you listen to a child talk, which really is one of the best ways to learn how their little brains work, is to spend time with them and observe and listen. But when you hear that they talk, they might be trying to talk about tomorrow and might say the word yesterday. They might say, yesterday, I'm going to do such and such. And you'll notice that that time and sequence is a little bit fuzzy. So a tip here is to use very clear sequential storytelling. In my class, I teach beginning, middle, and end. There are other ways to tell stories, but for beginners and for starters, I like to say start with a beginning, middle, and end, a really clear sequential story, and maybe avoid jumping around all the time. Like yesterday, the bear did this, and tomorrow the bear's gonna. That's to keep the story clear and simple so that the child can enjoy the story and not be trying to figure out the timeline of like, when did this happen? Thanks again to the comment on the channel for bringing this topic to light, and I hope it's shed a fresh perspective on writing for kids and some things we can keep in mind about how they might be processing and receiving the story that we write for them. As well, find the playlist with the free class, the free writing class, Writing Picture Books. And there is a downloadable resource, very affordable exercise book that you can do along with me, that each of the exercises complements a lesson in the class, and really it's designed to help you transform your skills, to like really build them, because I believe like it's a whole lot different to do the work than to watch the work. So here on YouTube, you're watching, you're listening, but I wanted to get you pen to paper, actually working and doing the work, learning how to write for kids. Thanks so much for being here. Do all those things, like, subscribe, hit the bell, share this with a friend. Until next time, picture book creators, happy creating.